against principles of God, against the principles of religion. And imagine all of that karma. For example, just eating of meat, which is very common, and more it's becoming more common. That has really heavy karmic reactions, actually. But we see how widespread and common it is. So what to speak of all the other things people are doing. So it's very difficult, if we just think about it for a moment, it's very difficult to imagine taking one person's karma, or 5 people's karma, or 10, or 100, or 1,000. That's a lot of karma. Or what to speak of 1,000,000, or however many people are in America. Okay, who knows? How many people are in America? 330 million. Okay. Just imagine you yourself taking that karmic reaction. That's a lot. So Vasudeva, that's what he wanted to do. Not just for Boston or New Jersey, New York, or even America, but the whole universe. He wanted to take everybody's sinful reactions so they can become free. They can become liberated. So this is very unique in history. Okay, so 163, my dear Lord, let me suffer perpetually in a hellish condition, accepting all the sinful reactions of all living entities. Please finish their diseased material life. Purport. Okay, so this purport here. So further, he is saying that understanding that he's going to take all these people's sinful activities on his head, all the karma on his head. Looks like we lost Purushottam. That's good. Understanding that he's going to take all these people's karma on his head, what has to happen there? What happens? He'd have to go to hell. Of course, the Vaishnava conception of hell is different from the Christian conception. What's the difference? Who would say? Yes.
Christian conception is hell is eternal.
Yes. So Christian conception is that hell is eternal. That's the general idea. There's some who understand a little more deeper, but the general idea, very common. But the Vaishnava conception is that it's temporary. A temporary place. But still, even if it's a temporary place, who wants to go there? Nobody wants to go there. So Vasudeva, he was saying, sign me up, I'll go. All of these people will be free. They'll be out of jail card. And then I'll just go to hell. I'll suffer. That's okay. As long as they're happy, I'm happy, even though I'm in hell. That's what he was telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Srila Prabhupada writes something in the purport, very interesting thing in the purport. Is it going? Yeah, anyways. He writes a very interesting thing in the purport. Now what he writes in the purport will not be appreciated at interfaith conventions. Interfaith conventions, the Christians, the Muslims, and the Hindus, and everybody get together and talk about religion and talk about the similarities and so on. This purport that Srila Prabhupada writes would not be popular at interfaith conventions amongst Christians. So we'll read it here. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. We're on 163 purport. Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh, somebody did what?
Purport. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following commentary on this verse. In the Western countries, Christians believe that Lord Jesus Christ, their spiritual master, appeared in order to eradicate all the sins of his disciples. To this end, Lord Jesus Christ appeared and disappeared. Here, however, we find Vasudeva Thakur, and Srila Haridas Thakur to be many millions of times more advanced, even when compared with Lord Jesus Christ. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that Jesus Christ, he came, and the general understanding is that he came to relieve his followers of sinful reactions as their guru. That's the guru principle. The guru relieves you of sinful reactions. But here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that Vasudeva and Haridas Thakur are considered to be how many times more advanced? Many millions. Many millions of times more advanced when compared to Lord Jesus Christ. That's why this would be popular at an interfaith convention, if they call it. Srila Prabhupada is not writing this to criticize Jesus Christ. Srila Prabhupada showed respect and reverence for him. But it just goes to show this is very, very unique in religious history. That a person is willing to take everyone's sinful activities, whether they follow him or not, and go to hell for them, so they can be happy. Vasudeva didn't say, oh, you have to be my disciple, you have to follow my instructions. He didn't say that. So it's really amazing, actually. Earlier this morning, we took a little walk, Purushottam and myself. We went over here, chapel walk. It wasn't a taco walk, it was a chapel walk, So while we were walking, I looked to my left, and there was this quite a big cross, huge cross, probably from the floor to that ceiling, at least, across this. And on the cross was a huge, like Morty, or it was a statue, and it was Jesus Christ nailed to the cross. The Christians, they put that there to glorify Jesus Christ. He's so merciful, he died for us. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he visited a few Christian monasteries and so on. He visited a place where they had this cross with Jesus, and Prabhupada said, take it down. And the reason Srila Prabhupada said, take it down, was because he said, this is not good. He said, they sacrificed their guru. The guru dies for their sins, and then they think I could do whatever I want. I can do anything I want. I mean, we could relate that Krishna consciousness. We become a devotee or become an initiate, we chant Hare Krishna, we think, okay, Jesus Christ relieved only his followers from all sinful reactions. But Vasudeva is here prepared to accept the sins of everyone in the universe. So the compassionate position of Vasudeva is millions of times better than that of Lord Jesus Christ. A Vaishnava is so liberal that he is prepared to risk everything to rescue the conditioned souls from material existence. Srila Vasudeva Thakur is universal love itself. We don't hear Srila Prabhupada writing this about anyone else. He doesn't say this person, this person, this person. He says Vasudeva is universal love itself. Quite interesting. For he was willing to sacrifice everything and fully engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. So it is Sri Vamarpurka. Srila Vasudeva Das knew very well that Lord Chaitanya was the original personality of Godhead, transcendent itself, above the material conception of illusion and Maya. Lord Jesus Christ certainly finished the sinful reaction of his followers by his mercy, but that does not mean he completely delivered them from the pangs of material existence. A person may be relieved from sins once, but it is a practice amongst Christians to confess sins and yet commit them again. And Srila Prabhupada, when meeting with some priest, he would sometimes, I mean, very strongly he would say, why aren't you teaching your followers to be sinless? You're not teaching them. Srila Prabhupada accepted that through Christianity, if people become vegetarians and they chant the name of God in their own tradition and they could advance, but he was critical of the leadership for not teaching properly. By getting free from sins again and again and engaging in them, one cannot attain freedom from the things of material existence. A diseased person may go to a physician for relief, but after he leaves the hospital, it may again be affected due to his unclean habits. Thus, material existence continues. Examples given like an elephant in India or Africa. Elephants, they go, they take a nice cool bath, right, in the river. When they come out, and they get with their trunk some dirt, and they throw it on their body. They roll with their carrying. So that's the example. That people go to church, the temple, the mosque, whatever, they pray, this and that, and they come out and just. But the idea is that through the practice of Krishna consciousness, one can become sinless, is free from it all. So it's very nice. Should Vasudeva wanted to completely relieve the conditioned souls from material existence so that they would no longer have an opportunity to sinful acts. This is the significant difference between Srila Vasudeva and Lord Jesus Christ. It is a great offense to receive pardon for sins and then commit the same sins again. Such an offense is more dangerous than the sinful activity itself. Vasudeva was so liberal that he requested Lord Chaitanya to transfer all offensive activity upon him, so that conditioned souls would be purified and go back home, back to Godhead. This prayer was certainly without duplicity. He was serious. He wasn't joking. He was very serious. Vasudeva's example is unique, not only within this world, but within the universe. Okay, so we'll just read a few more verses. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is text 164. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard Vasudeva's statement, his heart became very soft. So they said that there's different types of hearts. There's one who has a hard heart, a stone or something. He's very, very cruel, unkind, etc. But then there's people who have soft hearts that are, sometimes it says it's soft, like butter. Sometimes the examples it's like ghee, it's like always melted. Because butter's, soft, but when ghee is always melted. I mean, if you think about melted ghee. And then there's a heart which is like, it's like always flowing with nectar. So the different types of hearts. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can imagine his heart, said that his love for his devotees and people in general, he says he was more loving than millions of Bengali mothers. They're known for their love. So when he heard this, his heart began to melt. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Accepting Vasudeva as a great devotee, the Lord said, such a statement is not at all astonishing, because you are the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. It appears that Lord Krishna has bestowed complete mercy upon you. There's no doubt about it. So we hear all the time, right? Srila Prabhupada, if anybody was wondering, we hear all the time. Srila Prabhupada quoted it many, many times. A particular verse. Sarva.
Dharman Parityaja Mamik.
It's who would say meaning.
I'm not all varieties of religion and just religion. I will deliver you to what we.
Yes. You also have, do not fear. Meaning fear, surrendering to Krishna. Do not fear, do not worry. And also do not hesitate. Srila Prabhupada writes in the book, do not hesitate. So we hear it all the time, right? You hear Srila Prabhupada quotes that people come to the Boston Temple, they quote it all the time. You go to home programs, you hear it all the time. So we're hearing it right now. So then the question is raised, why should we surrender to Krishna? Why should we surrender to Krishna? Now, I suspect many of you here are mothers and fathers. That's what it looks like. So you have surrendered to your children, like any good mother and father do. It means that you surrender taking care of them. You cook for them, clean, so many things, right? Financially, you're giving to them. Husbands and wives, they have committed themselves to the relationship, right? That's the whole basis of marriage. So this way, we have committed ourselves in so many relationships. So we're also supposed to commit to Krishna, to surrender to Krishna. Now, the previous acharyas, the teachers, our previous teachers, they have brought up a very interesting point that in relation to surrendering to Krishna, the most inspiring quality that Krishna has that inspires people to surrender to him is what? What do you think? What's the most inspiring quality of Krishna's that inspires people to surrender to him? Yes, he's our best friend. Now, what's if you go a little further? What's a quality that a best
It's
friend?
very attractive.
They're what?
Attractive.
Affectionate,
Attractive.
attractive. Yes, that's true. It's true also. Although there's another quality. Well wisher, closer, passionate. He's merciful. He's compassionate. Karuna Sindhu, ocean of mercy. Putana, she came to kill Krishna. What did he do? He said, okay, now you go to hell. He didn't say that. He brought it to the spiritual world. He saw the good in her. So compassionate. There's so many examples of Krishna's compassion. So they have said that this is the inspiring quality that Krishna has. He's compassion, ocean of compassion. But if you think about it logically, if someone may be very beautiful, but if they're not kind, if they're cruel or mean, someone may be very intelligent, someone may be very rich, someone may be very whatever, they're strong, but if they're cruel, if they're mean-spirited, hard-hearted, then people aren't attracted. It's a problem in religion, actually. People, more and more people are fed up with religion because religious leaders, not all of them, but some of them, it's hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. They say love God, love Jesus, love Krishna, love. But then they're mean. I'm sorry, but they're mean spirited, so people think why. If you look at Vaishnava offenses towards Vaishnavas, what is the main reason people commit offenses to Vaishnava? The main reason is because it's some type of meanness coming out, harshness, some type of unfriendly, unkind. That's the basic principle of it. So in a similar way, Krishna, the most inspiring quality is his compassion. So that's why we should surrender. You cannot find anyone more merciful than Krishna. You cannot find anyone more merciful than Krishna's devotees, Lord Chaitanya, the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. You can't find anyone more merciful than Srila Prabhupada. So why Why not surrender to them? What's the problem? What's the difficulty? So here, so it says that his heart became very soft. Tears flowed from his eyes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, tears flowed from his eyes, and he began to tremble. So his heart was soft, and he began to tremble, and tears were flowing from his eyes. This is 164.
Yeah.
And then he spoke. Accepting Vasudeva, God is great devotee, Lord said, such a state was not at all sufficient because you're the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. It appears that Lord Krishna has bestowed complete mercy upon you. There is no doubt about it. So this is a sign that we have received the mercy of Krishna, that we are merciful. We are kind to ourselves. You know, there's people that are killers of themselves. That's what it says in the Bible. Suicidal. People neglecting spiritual life, it's suicidal actually. They're not kind to themselves. So we are kind to ourselves. We are kind to our husbands, to our wives, to our children. We are kind to other devotees. We are kind to people in general. This is a sign that we have received the mercy of Krishna. But it's very interesting here that he says this is not at all astonishing because you are an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. So who is Prahlad Maharaj? What was that?
The son of Hiranyakashipu.
The son of Hiranyakashipu. That's true. He's the son of Hiranyakashipu. Talk about a cruel father, right? Unkind father. So Prahlad Maharaj. Now, Vasudeva in Chaitanya Leela, 500 years ago, is there, but this Vasudeva is actually an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj came again as Vasudeva. So, in other words, they're the same person. He came again. Now, Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Chaitanya said, this is not at all astonishing that you're merciful, because Prahlad Maharaj is merciful. That's why there's a similarity there. So, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we'll just read a few more verses. Whatever a pure devotee wants from his master, Lord Krishna, doubtlessly grants, because he is only good. He has no other duty than to fulfill the desire of his devotee. That's Krishna's only duty. If you desire the deliverance of all living entities within the universe, then all of them can be delivered, even without your undergoing the tribulation of sinful activity. So he said, I will fulfill your desire, and you don't have to suffer. Good deal, right? Whosoever welfare you desire immediately becomes a Vaishnava. Krishna delivers all Vaishnavas from the reactions of their sinful activities. Yeah. 171. Because of your honest desire. Because of your honest desire, all living entities within the universe will be delivered. For Lord Krishna does not have to do anything to deliver all living entities of the universe. Now, if we look, okay, again, Vasudeva comes as Prahlad Maharaj. So we'll just read two verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 7, Chapter 10, text 44. So 7, 9, 44.
Okay.
And we could just chant it just for auspiciousness. So I'll repeat one verse, one line, and then you can repeat. We'll just for auspicious. It's very auspicious. Okay? Prayena deva munaya vibhukti kamam
Nayen deva munaya svamimukti kama.
Sharati vajanena parakatimishi.
Manam charanti vinanena paranti. Etam vihaya kripana vimukti eka.
Parasya sharanam Vakashya.
Nani tvayasya taranam param.
So this is giving us the idea of the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. Right? So we're going from Chaitanya Lila to Prahlad Nrsimha Lila. Okay? We're going back time. And then we'll go forward again. All right, so this is the mood. So this is Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu is just died. The disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. It's the appearance day of Nrsimhadev. I think he disappeared for like 48 hours or something. Very kind of quick. You could look that up too. How long was Nrsimhadev here? It was very quick. So he appeared, and then Hiranyakashipu disappeared. It's the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. So he just disappeared, and then Prahlad Maharaj is praying. He's praying toward Nrsimhadev. So young boy Prahlad, 5 years old, and you have Nrsimhadev there. All the demigods were afraid. This is about you, Prahlad, you go. So this is one of his prayers. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, monovrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter of your lotus feet. So he was saying there's many sages that go to the Himalayas. But he said, me, I want to stay where all the people are, because I want to give them Krishna consciousness. This is his mercy. He was wanting to work for the benefit of others. So, Srila Prabhupada, he came to America, where we'll be celebrating that soon, and he started the Hare Krishna movement. One time he was asked, why did you start the Hare Krishna movement? And he said, I started the Hare Krishna movement because I needed some association. Because he was alone. He was a lone Vaishnava. Of course, a Vaishnava is never alone. Krishna is always there. The Guru is always there. And his entourage, they're always there. But he came alone. He didn't. I mean, sannyasis, they travel through Boston when they go travel. They always have their assistant brahmachari. Where was Prabhupada didn't even have assistant brahmachari? I mean, now all the sannyasis, they have assistant brahmachari. I didn't come with assistant brahmachari, but maybe Gurung. Later.
Goran,
Later. Later. He grows up, learns Virginia. But Prabhupada didn't come with assistant anyone. He was just coming by himself. And it's not that Prabhupada came with a big, he just stayed at somebody's house, Butler, Pennsylvania, some random person. He didn't know them. She was even there, human beings. I mean, Prabhupada was quite amused by the Western style. He says he was analyzing the vacuum cleaners, frozen foods. He never saw things like that. Apparently, Srila Prabhupada went to a grocery store one time, and he buying some vegetables. And when he got to the person, check out the vegetables to buy them. And then the person said how much it was. And then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, that's too much. I don't want to pay that. And then she's like, well, sir, that's how much it costs. And he said, oh, it's $4, I'll give you two. And she said, sir, this doesn't work like that. And he said, no, this is way too much. So you know how much these vegetables cost. And I won't pay you four, I'll pay you two. And the lady, she said, she just took out money from her own, purse or whatever, she paid for the rest of the vegetables. So Prabhupada only paid two, she paid the rest. Because in India, I mean, that's what you do. You bargain. I was in Calcutta, some years ago when I visited Pai for 2 years. I stay at my friend's house in Calcutta there. He's a lawyer, devotee, so it's pretty intense. Many lawyers in the audience, anyways, he's pretty, lawyers, they have to fight. So anyways, he was up on his balcony and there was a man coming by with a basket of vegetables. And then he told me, he said, oh, you should come and, right? He said, you should watch outside the window. He said, I'm going to really bargain with this person. So he went out there and they were speaking in Bengali and we really got him down in the price. So that's a problem. So he wasn't familiar with all of these things. But still, he started the Hare Krishna movement, and he did it out of his compassion. And devotees, they actually asked Srila Prabhupada, one devotee, one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, said to him, Srila Prabhupada, are you in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj? And then Srila Prabhupada said, yes. He said, I'm always trying to deliver these goals of aspect. It means I'm trying to give people Krishna consciousness. So if you see the connection, there's Vasudev Dutt, he is the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. And you see Vasudev Dutt's passion, his mercy, his glory. And then you see Prahlad Maharaj, similar verse. There's another text 17, this will be the last one we read. This is 7:10:17. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's continuing to pray for Shingadev. He's saying, O Supreme Lord, because you're so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. He just says, I just want one thing. He can give him anything, but I just want one thing. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, also thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Who's his brother? So Shingadev was angry. Although he was killed, he was purified from Shingadev was angry. This is the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship. The spiritual master of all living beings. You committed heavily sinful activities directed against me. Prahlad Maharaj is saying, in other words, he tried to kill him. How many times did Prahlad Maharaj try to, excuse me, we're singing, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj? Does anyone remember? 17 times? Yeah, something like that. And all different types of ways to kill him. I wish, so this is your devotee, I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. This is what he's saying. Please excuse my father. Purport. Although Hiranyakashipu was purified, the short purport. As soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap, and the Lord saw him, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlad Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava's son, despite all inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he cannot forget his father's affection. Unbelievable. He cannot forget his father's affection. It's just inconceivable, actually, the level of forgiveness, the level of liberality that Prahlad Maharaj has. One time, Srila Prabhupada would explain, he's in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, very passionate, very merciful. So one time, there was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada in Calcutta, and the temple president of Calcutta, they called Small Krishna Goswami, who was in another city in India. And the temple president wanted to speak with Prabhupada about the bad behavior of this devotee. He was smoking ganja. He was breaking the principles. So, Srila Prabhupada said on the phone, he said, tell that devotee that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, I'm going to reject him. So then they got off the phone. So then Tamal Krishna Goswami asked Prabhupada, because, for the spiritual master to reject somebody, that's pretty heavy. It's a pretty intense thing, actually. That's what he said to Thomas. So, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, they got up the phone and he asked him, Srila Prabhupada, is it true that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, that you'll reject him? And then Prabhupada said, no. And he said, the mercy of Lord Nityananda is unlimited. It's unlimited. So, and the spiritual master said to be the representative of Nityananda the Holera. So, there's also another devotee. He was initiated Prabhupada, Indian actually, in Juhu. And he left the temple and he was living on Juhu Beach. And he was associated with this bogus yogi. And he was trying to learn the art of passing a coin through one ear and out the other. And he was traveling around for the life members, knocking on doors and so on, and saying, I'm part of ISKCON, can you please give donations? And he was just taking the donation. So Tamal Krishna Goswami was very upset. Initiated devotee. Not only was he rejecting Srila Prabhupada in the sands, living on the beach with this mystic yogi, but he was also collecting funds in the name of this cause. Pretty much. So then, Srila Prabhupada, then Tamal Krishna Goswami said, Srila Prabhupada, he said, can't you just reject this person? And then Srila Prabhupada said, no. He said, I can't reject. And he said, yes, but then Tamal Krishna Goswami said, yes, but isn't there a limit? Is there a limit? And then Srila Prabhupada again, he said, there's no limit to the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So, of course, people hear it, but, it doesn't mean, take advantage of it, but it is there, the mercy of the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada's the most merciful. So yes, we have Vasudeva Dutt, we have Prahlad Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada's in that mood of Prahlad Maharaj. So there's the connection. So when you think of Srila Prabhupada, you can think about Prahlad Maharaj. When you think about Srila Prabhupada, you can think about Vasudeva Dutt as well. There's the connection there. And therefore, we shouldn't feel shy about surrendering to them. No problem. No Mahasutra, do not worry, do not fear, do not hesitate. We're very merciful. And And therefore we should try by that surrendering to them, which means chanting very sincerely. Hare, Hare Krishna, chanting very sincerely, Hare Krishna, making food offered with love and devotion to Krishna, associating with the devotees, all of these things, we just engage in the process of devotional service. And that will soften our heart, and then we will also be representatives of that very merciful life. Vasudeva, Srila Prabhupada, Vasudeva, so we're connected to this very merciful line, and therefore we're also supposed to be merciful, kind and compassionate, and giving Krishna consciousness to others as far as possible, supporting and giving of Krishna consciousness to others. All right, so we'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes.
I really like my question is more of guidance. You know, so many times we're particular right now we heard Prahlad Maharaj just forgave his fathers. But so many times as people living day to day, it's so difficult to practice even that one day. Even if we've received parts of, let's say, a million times less than that, you know, from other people. But to be able to practice that, there is no like blueprint. I feel like we are always just told, let's chant, let's
Spiritual guidance.
but it doesn't really talk about how it affects those relationships and like your own well-being as well. So how do you relate that?
Okay, language. So yeah, the question is about forgiveness, and that many times in our day-to-day lives we may be offended. Has anyone been offended here recently? Husband, by our wife, by our friends, by coworkers. You know, we get offended, and sometimes we hold grudges. We can't. It's very. In terms of like grudges or anger or frustration, we have to get rid of those things, make room for more positive things. But anyway, so yeah, we get offended millions of times less than Prahlad Maharaj, but it seems that there's no blueprint in terms of how to actually work through this. We're just called a chant or things like that. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, there's different ways of going about it. There's one devotee, his name is Mahatma Prabhu. Everyone know him? Does he come here? No, come here, no. Anyways, so Mahatma Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he's given a number of seminars on different topics, japa or things. One of them is forgiveness. He gives like 8-part seminar on forgiveness. So it would be good to listen to that. That's one thing, because you know it's a complex topic. Like if you were to say, okay, tell me about japa. Okay, I mean, but it's a complex subject. There's seminars on japa. There's actually a really good book called Japa, Gauri Chandra book. So and there's other seminars and so on. So that's one thing. We try to listen to that. That's good. But it is interesting that there's actually dozens of reasons not to forgive someone. They're not good reasons, but they're reasons. Like, for example, I won't forgive the person because they didn't say sorry. I won't forgive the person because they said sorry, but they didn't mean it. And I can tell that they didn't. I won't forgive the person because what they did to me is unforgivable. I won't forgive the person. Anyways, there's so many different reasons. Look at Jenny right now. I actually read something about it. Yeah, because as they're repeating the things, or they haven't realized it.
Yeah.
They haven't realized what they've done is wrong. There's so many different reasons. But the thing is, it is important to understand, like in a logical way, things, and that if somebody doesn't realize what they've done is wrong, we should still forgive them. Because we don't really need to take the position of God, means the person who's dispersing punishment or revenge or karma or anything like that. It actually hurts us. They just kind of go on with their life and it hurts us. We're the ones who suffer. Sometimes you may try to talk to somebody who offended you and they don't understand that.
Yeah.
So in some sense, it may become worse. Like talking. You should try to talk, but it may not help actually. But ultimately, we could pray also. We should pray. We should say, Krishna, please help me forgive this person. Please give me the strength to forgive this person. I mean, Haridas Thakur, of course, we bring up all these different personalities, but we should look at these different personalities and gain inspiration. It's not that these personalities are just distant personalities, but we could gain inspiration from them. That if they're forgiving, then I should try to be forgiving. I should pray to Krishna. I should try to understand, why it's important to be forgiving and so on. Yeah, but ultimately, recently I felt kind of hurt, let's say, by someone. And I'm not going to get into the details here. But it was the devotee, the very, very senior, and like like a teacher figure and so on. And yeah, I mean, I was like, and I spoke with people about it, and the intelligent, wise, kind people. He was also a kind person, not discrediting this person who I was hurt by, but many people they agreed with it. They thought it was wrong. We tried to communicate, and that didn't work. It just kind of made it worse. And I spoke with one devotee, one of my Shiksha gurus, about it. And he said, and I asked him, do you have any advice for me? And he said, no. He just said, you just kind of have to work through it, in a sense. You kind of have to heal. Time heals things as well. But he did bring up this interesting point that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes in the life of a child, they see the parents as ideal, when they're growing up, and then, they're nice father and mother, a good family, nice father, nice mother. But then sometimes they grow up and they realize that their parents, there's some faults there. They become kind of disillusioned in a sense. Now, he was bringing this up in relation to my experience that, this person's like a father figure to you. I said, that's true. And I told him that I could understand in a material sense how your father and mother could be letting you down in certain ways with their flesh. But then I told him, but this is a spiritual thing. This is like, it's devotee. And he said, yeah, but just because one's a devotee, the devotees all have each other, the devotees also have faults sometimes, and due to whatever reasons, they may not have, you may not be faultless in certain regards. So that also has to be understood, that people are generally not faultless. And even in people that says they're on the level of Baba, that's a very high level actually, level of God, preliminary stage, says that the faults of those persons, they also have faults. It says it, but it's like a spot on the moon. So this way we have to try to kind of understand things, and just because someone's in a position of leadership authority, they may not have mature in certain ways, for example. So there's so many different things to think about. Anyways, I hope that helps to some degree. Any other question? Or comment? Yes.
Thank you very much for the reading class. Connecting Chaitanya to the Rajasthan so far. My question is, only for like making such a statement of sacrifice statement, like Prahlad Maharaj and also the other deep compassion.
Yes.
So the question may sound silly, but how do Prahlad Maharaj and Vasudeva know that they can handle?
Yeah.
Because as a jiva, there is a limit to what can spend.
Well, that's true. How can they know that they could handle such difficult things? Positive, taking the simple activities of everyone, Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. True, Prabhupada also. How can they understand? Devotees, they have great faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, and they think that anything really that may seem to be difficult, if they remember Krishna, if they remember the spiritual master, it's not difficult. So impossible things could become possible. They have such great faith. It's actually inconceivable in a sense, their level of faith and realization. But also, these persons are extraordinary personalities. They're in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're in the Bhagavatam. So they're very special personalities. That's another thing to consider. They're not, all devotees are special, but these are like, very.
Because the same also like spiritual masters also take up a very difficult task.
Yeah,
So same person like
with the spiritual master, how do they know?
I mean they take up this very like burden of love task. They are also again ready to take the burden,
Yes,
karma of the disciples.
yes.
So it's
Yeah. Yeah, one devotee, one Vaishnava, a great Vaishnava in history, he was being encouraged to be a Diksha guru, like a initiating guru. And he was thinking, oh, why, who am I to do that? He was very humble. So then he was thinking about taking residence in Mayapur. But before he went to Mayapur, he went to Ekachakradam, Vietnam Prabhu's parents' place. And he was bowing down before the deities. And then he had this thought in his mind. And he felt like it was like Nityananda giving him some type of message. And the thought was, You are offering your obeisances to me to get the blessings to reside in my heart. But you yourself aren't being merciful. You have to be merciful to the living emperors. You should be a guru. So that was one thing. And then another thing is that while he was reading a commentary of the Acharyas, the commentary said, if there's, in essence, like if there's a disease, and somebody doesn't give up the cure, but they have the cure, they're a miser. In other words, they're selfish. They should help situation. So that was the second thing. The third thing, which is the last thing, he thought to himself that, okay, there's a bunch of people who are lacking Krishna consciousness. They need to accept his guru. So I may not be the most advanced physician, like as a doctor. I may not be the most advanced one, but I could still take patients. And when there's a more advanced doctor, and I can, ask, not that after initiation, but if somebody's trying for initiation, and he sees that there's a more advanced doctor, he will say, go to them. But in the meantime, I could try to help him. That was another, and then he became a guru. So, yeah, it's, these are some thoughts. Yeah. So, it's by revelation or realization that they actually exist. Okay, is there last question? Yes.
Thank you, Bhumi. So, firstly, question is, the senior devotee, did you forgive him or you are still?